Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.
Dripping in gold? That's cool. Dripping in Velveeta's supremely creamy golden cheesiness? That's respect. Elevate your drip with Velveeta's range of outrageously delicious dips and dishes. Shells, cheese, melty blocks, and heat and eat queso that go all in on indulgence. Flex on your fam with a creamy, cheesy masterpiece and go all in on what you love with Velveeta. Respect the drip and satisfy your cravings. Bring home the drip with Velveeta.
Netflix has a new, monstrous story to tell. In 1950s Wisconsin, Ed Gein lived quietly on a decaying farm, hiding a house of horrors so gruesome it would redefine the American nightmare. Driven by isolation, psychosis, and an all-consuming obsession with his mother, he committed crimes that would haunt Hollywood for decades. The third and most harrowing installment of Ryan Murphy and Ian Brennan's anthology series. Watch Monster, the Ed Gein story, October 3rd, only on Netflix.
You're listening to United Rugby Rewind. Hello and welcome to this week's United Rugby Rewind with me and the ABC of Rugby, Alan, Ben and Caelan. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hi, guys.
Good evening.
See how I slipped in the whole ABC. I'm loving the whole ABC thing, guys.
You can tell, yeah.
Well, before we get into everything, first week of the URC was absolutely belting. I mean, what did we make of? Let's ask Alan first, because you like your South African sides decided to shit out of the first week and just sit there and watch, So, what did you make of watching everybody else have a fantastic?
I think it's pretty obvious that they're very competitive games. I think a lot closer than than years gone by. The first week, it's obvious that there's going to be upsets, and it's very obvious that the standard of the rugby is really, really good, and I think we've got a lot to be excited about and a lot to look forward to.
The average difference was 2 points. 2 points.
I think a lot of the players. I mean, a lot of teams would be surprised by by the closeness of the games. I'm sure you guys were jumping up and down a lot more, probably a lot more than I was over the weeks. My week started a bit rubbish, but yeah, I mean, even like the teams that you would expect to do well and that you would hope to do well, like Edinburgh, they did good, and they all the teams were in with a chance to win these games, which is what you want, isn't it?
Caelan, your thoughts? Just overview of the week.
Well, I don't know what we can say. Just rugby. Is that a good enough answer? Like, rugby. That it's slayed. If you want to use the terms that my generation used, it was unbelievable. I was in Thomond Park. Had to stay reserved. I was in press area, so I had to kind of take a step back from it. Not jump up and down. But like, what a weekend! Mentioned the Edinburgh Leinster game. Definitely a roller coaster. Both sides had their moments. I basically only seen the games involving the Irish sides, but like Munster Connacht 10 tries, Ulster Glasgow 3 tries in the last 7 minutes to decide that one. Like, what more could you ask for? Maybe a few South African teams involved, of course, but they just, as you said, they decided to go play Curry Cup, and that's fine. But we'll see what they're really made of next week, because we're all battle hardened now. We're all ready for the rigmarole of it all.
Yeah, you boys are for it next week. Ben, what did you make of the first week?
I think there's three things I'm going to say. It was the best opening weekend of rugby I think there's been in a long time, in terms of every single game. Both teams were in it right until the last minutes. Second thing, I think of the quote from This Is Spinal Tap. Does this go up? This goes up to 11, because I'm going to say that weekend was an 11 out of 10. There was just something about every game. It was just unbelievably high quality.
And the third thing I'll say is I think it's just vindicated our pre-season shows and that we've been so excited by, and it's been borne out by the quality over the weekend. It's just been outstanding, and it just shows the advert as the URC being up there is one of the best leagues in not just in the Northern Hemisphere, but in the world right now. That in the top 14. I just think the quality on show over the weekend was just unbelievable. To see that in the opening rounds, everyone just clicked straight away, and it was just fantastic to watch. So really pleased and just excited, really excited about the rest of the season. Just can't wait to see every weekend to pop up with. Just seems to be competitiveness everywhere. There was no bad results. Ebre maybe a little bit, but everyone else seemed to compete really well.
And that kind of completes my ABC. They're absolutely bloody competitive. It's a thing. It's rolling already. It's growing. It'll have its own Twitter feed by the end of the season. The ABC of rugby, boys. So let's look into a couple of games then. So just to remind everybody the way we kind of do it, we pick a couple of home games for our areas, and we pick a home game for our area. We review and preview that one in depth. So the games that we previewed last week in depth, we're gonna review them, and then we'll pick some games to preview for the week coming as well. And we'll try and make sure that we include all teams as we go. So let's start with first game, Edinburgh-Leinster, which was yours, Ben. 31-33, and even just watching it on text was superb. So what did you make of the game?
Pretty bloody frustrating, to be honest. I think Ken and I were having a bit of to and fro on Friday night, and I think
I should apologize in a few minutes because I may have overstepped a few times, but go on. I'll let you get through it first.
It was the minute 50 to minute 65, 70. We really let ourselves down. It was poor, and I think yes, we scored 5 tries. All 5 tries are pretty good. We scored off different types of play as well, open play, off the maul, and obviously that one at the end, which Matt Scott went and dabbed down. That was a bit of luck really, because I can't remember what happened. We gave it. I think Leinster were down to 14, and there was something a bit odd happened in the last minute for us to go and score that breakaway try. I think what it did show is Ben Veathercott has to start next weekend, because Ali Price was poor, his box kicking, his general distribution, his ruck speed, and that manifests itself with the second try that Leinster scored. Ali Price box kick, turned away in frustration, looked to the heavens, and then wasn't switched on with the ball coming back. Van der Merwe and Jamie Ritchie both went up for it, didn't really compete, and then it's come straight into Leinster wings' hands. Who was it that scored that second try, Caelan, off the top of my head? Wasn't Tommy O'Brien scored the first one, wasn't it?
It was Charlie Tector.
Charlie Tector, yeah, who played very well, and he just broke for an Ali Price, just gave up. Same again for JGP, Gibson Park's try. Ali Price fended off very easily. Duhan Van der Merwe again fended very easily by someone, a good foot shorter than him. And another thing I noticed on Twitter over the weekend is that Van der Merwe, when he goes to score tries, and he scored 2, he doesn't seem to make an attempt to come in off his wing. He will just dab down straight. So whether it was Ben Healy or whether it was Ross Thompson kicking, he's doing his 10s legs. He needs to start driving in, at least try until you're going to get tackled to give that 5-10 yards, because we know on the angle, there's right wing, right foot off the left wing or left foot off the right wing. You're going to need that. You need that extra, just that yardage, just so you can get in a bit, so you've got a bit more space and the post open up. So overall, I think we could have won. I think there were it was just sloppy at periods of time. Our tries were well worked tries. Leinster's tries, I think 3 of them I could say, in retrospect, we probably shouldn't have conceded. And that was the frustrating part for me overall. I think it was a game we could have won, and it's one that we might regret losing towards the end of the season, because we now got a tough trip to South Africa. They've taken the 29-man squad over there. I think there'll be some changes for Saturday against the Bulls.
So we said when we did our predictions, everyone kind of predicted Leinster to be top of the table there or thereabouts. So
apart from yourself, of course.
Well, apart from me, I've got insight. You see. So were they poor? Were Edinburgh stepping up? Or Edinburgh going to be, if they maintain it like that, are they going to be top of the table, or have Leinster got a couple of extra gears to go through?
Leinster,
I think they've got extra gears.
Okay,
They were poor.
first disagreement. I'll let you take Edinburgh and I'll take Leinster if you want.
We've definitely got a more focal point of attack with Tuipulotu. He didn't really get into the game the first 20 minutes. I think that's just the way the game was played at that point. It was very much through the forwards and the loose, loose sort of midfield. He didn't really see much of it, but he's definitely a different point of attack. And there was definitely quite a few crash balls where we wouldn't have made them with Matt Curry or James Lang or Mark Bennett last year. And Curry went off injured very, very early, and Matt Scott came on and it changed the game, I think, for us quite a bit. I think we had more structure in the midfield. And that's something we really, really struggled with last year. And the other thing is that we did do this, even though we lost, at least we scored 4 tries. We only did that 3 times last year, and they were in fairly routine home victories. At least I don't think we scored a try bonus in a losing game in a loss last season off the top of my head. So there is that. There are a lot of positives to take out of it, but it's a 2-point loss. It's probably the best we would have hoped for. But I think at pre-game, but watching the game itself, there were a lot of opportunities there to tidy up, because I think when we went ahead, we conceded very quickly through O'Brien. I think Jimmy O'Brien went in the corner and then obviously did his leg. I think it was Jimmy O'Brien.
Tommy O'Brien.
Tommy O'Brien, yeah, did his leg. And obviously, I think it was just the way he slid in, wasn't he? He just twisted his quad. And then again, when we were 19-12 up and then conceded 3 tries quite quickly, Jack Conan and James and Gibbs apart, it was just again that not being able to exit our 22 off a return, receiving a kick. That was the problem. Was I think if Sean Everett is going to be looking at anything, it will be how we return the kick in the 22, because we choked a couple of times on that. And I think if you exit properly, it's very, you then get your structure back. But it was just the ball was too loose, and I just don't think we controlled it well enough. So that's the main area I think. And the 9, I think Vellacott needs to start next Saturday. I think that feels like a no-brainer for me.
I'd agree, and I think it's never down to one player that you lose or win a game, be it Price or Healy or Doohan or whoever else. But like Leinster kind of got away with one there. I don't think Leinster. I think if Jemison Gibson Park's not fit, I don't think Leinster win that game. I think he's worth 14 points or give or take. The score's a nice try. Again, it's soft enough, but it's the tempo, it's the direction. I think the way I worded it on Twitter was he is their heartbeat. He is everything that Leinster do well. And look, he's one of the top 5 players in the world. Of course, there's going to be that element of it. But like Leinster's pack were poor for large parts. Like a lot of lads got dominated, especially the back row of Penny, Deegan, and Conan. They were pretty much dominated all night. Thought Jamie Ritchie played well, and I wouldn't be Jamie Ritchie's biggest fan as a player. Thought the Edinburgh front row stood up. Schumann, as always. I know there's always the loud chance or whatever, so you always know when he's on the ball, but he was always on the ball and felt like had a really big game. And even Thompson, I thought Thompson did well. He grew into the game, had a couple of loose errors, but he grew into the game. Whereas on the flip side, like Gibson Park was man of the match deservedly. Even if Leinster lose, I think he could have been man of the match. He was that good. I thought Charlie Tector was excellent. But outside of that, like I really don't think this was that good of a Leinster performance, if I'm being entirely honest. And Leo Cullen would probably say it himself, like, I don't want to use the term I used about Munster when I said got out of dodge, but I think Leinster kind of got away with one. I think if that's another team who is in Edinburgh who have a bit more confidence in themselves and didn't make so many silly errors and didn't capitulate in the third quarter and only come back into it when the game was lost, I think it's a very different game. I think if that's Glasgow, for instance, that game goes very, very differently. And I think that's the benchmark that we measure Edinburgh against, rightly or wrongly. And look, Edinburgh will learn from it. But as you said yourself, they've got 2 games to South Africa now to come. Then there's the Stormers at home. They have no time to feel sorry about themselves. They have to bounce back now.
Yeah, there's no bankers. And the way the old teams are playing at the moment, are there really going to be any genuine bankers this season? It doesn't really seem like that.
There'll be 1 or 2.
It's important to remember as well that it is the first game of the season, and that combinations get worked on, and game management is just another element that does have to be like worked on. Do you know what I mean? Because you don't know what you're going to come up against until you come up against it. That performance was really impressive, and you're right. Like another team might have won it, but Edinburgh will learn a lot from that. And like Ben said, the losing bonus point is already something that it shows an improvement from last season.
So
because last season we obviously played at the RDS and they went great. So Yeah, and I don't think Lens had a particularly strong team out then either. I think it was the third game of the season, and there still was quite a few people missing.
I
So
think this
yeah.
could have been an arguably stronger team in terms of who was there. Like obviously you'd Ringrose, you'd Gibson Park, you'd James Ryan, you'd Conan, and then you'd the likes of Healy and Slimani, who not to dig the knife in, but early doors, Rafa Slimani didn't cover himself in glory because folded in on one scrum, got away with one on another, which I think if it's another referee, Piardi's very finicky. He doesn't want to give penalties at certain times of games. I think if it's another referee, he gets pinned. And he missed one of the tackles in the build up to the final try, where he was just out on his feet. He was just walked past.
Yeah, it was knackered
Very
through.
early doors. And look, he's been playing in France for years. Might be used to the 4 seasons of Scottish weather that we got on the night.
In the same hour and a half, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll see. Time will tell. Like we'll learn a lot about Leinster in a few weeks. It's kind of, as someone said, it's very NFL like in week 1. We kind of had that kind of week where your perception of a lot of teams was very different to what we saw. But we'll see. I think the only thing with Edinburgh is they're probably the one team don't have time to wait and see. We need to know next week how good they are.
And I think a lot of people are in that position. A lot of sides are in that, and you look at it, but that's because it's the most competitive league. You know, there is no week where you go, okay, we've got an easy week this week. We'll put the seconds up. And that applies equally to Leinster as well. So, okay, so let's move on then to the 3 o'clock kickoff on Saturday, because there was one, which was Dragons Ospreys, and so this was my game, first Welsh derby of the year, and it was just superb. It really was. We every year we hope and expect the Dragons to make a good start, to get off to a flyer. We want them to be competitive, and they were all of those things. It was a really, really competitive match. There was a little bit too much kicking from both sides, but that was because they just constantly kept each other under pressure, and it was good. It was a really good game to watch, even as a neutral, if you want to put it in those terms. It was enthralling from start to finish. Nobody got away. Nobody was more than a try or so in the lead. There were a couple of errors that you just go, straight from the kickoff, and then you're given a penalty and stuff like that. But it was superb. So players I picked out, Lloyd Evans for Dragons, I thought was superb. Dane Blacker, him and Evans and halfback combination looked really, really comfortable on the ball. Jack Walsh, fullback for the Ospreys. Dan Edwards, I think it's his second season now at 10. Just really stepping up, and these are all young players. Maybe Dane Blacker is a little bit older, but all young players that are really starting to step up, and it was great. And the fact that it finished, literally that last play was 4.5 minutes long. That's how well the Dragons controlled that ball, and they took the ball just inside their own half, and they worked it from their own half and ended up scoring under the Ospreys posts. To do that, that's just in one play, fantastic. It was a joy to watch, a real joy to watch. And the thing that the referee actually had a really good game, and the bit that I liked in this game, which is a little bit bizarre, and it's a little bit of a side issue and all that kind of stuff. So Osprey's come off, took his gum shield out and put it in his sock during a break-in play, and then didn't put his gum shield back in. So because your gum shield now has the shock monitors in it, and that's how they know to give you HIA. So because it wasn't in his mouth, he had to come off and have a HIA assessment. And I just, as a message to send to players across, the whole league, that's it's serious, it's important. You have to do what you're asked. You have to have your gum shield in, and you have to kind of stick with it. So yeah, fair play to the referee and the medical teams that just said, look, tough. You're gonna have to come off and do a HIA for a couple of minutes because you're dull enough to put it in your sock. So yeah, I mean, for me, going down to 14 men with 10 minutes to go and then coming through and winning the game was just massive for the Dragons. Absolutely massive. And fair play to them. There's been a fair bit of balancing banter, shall we call it, where statements that were made last season have maybe been turned around and thrown back and things like that. So yeah, it's been good. It's been great for Welsh rugby, to be honest. So yeah, but I don't suppose any of you guys saw the Welsh games because you were off watching your own.
I have a good reason now. In fairness, this is at 3:00. Once we're playing at 5:30. Like, I kind of have a good reason, and it wasn't shown in Thomond Park. Maybe that's disrespectful. I don't know. But certainly a result that make you stand up and take notice. And again, kind of like Zebra and the Dragons, we had a similar conversation about the two of them. Just pick up one or two more results a year. One or two more could make a huge difference. And I think with this one, I think that's kind of what we seen. This was the kind of result that, like, what was it, 8 points down with 5 minutes to go. You're usually down and out. The Ospreys are so good at seeing out games. They're so good at not shutting up shop, because they're not exactly defense first, but they're so good at seeing out games because they've got that experience. Even like Dan Edwards got man of the match, and by all accounts deservedly so. But for the Dragons to find that belief to come back into it, not saying the Dragons are going to go to the playoffs. I'm not saying the Osprey season it's done by any means, but it's the results you want to see from the Dragons. And even similar to Zebra. Zebra looked down and out after 20 minutes against Cardiff. They played some of their
17-3 down, weren't they, at that point? Yeah.
Yeah, they were awful. I turned it off. I won't lie. I turned it off and focused on the Leinster Edinburgh game. They were dire, but they came back into it. And that's what you need to see. And like, it's not going to happen every week of the season. The Dragons are going to overturn 10-point deficits every game, but it's a big result. And like for Di Flanagan, like 2 seasons ago, they got a couple of nice results early doors, and there was a good vibe around the place. Last year, they didn't really have that. This could be one of those results that just, keeps the wolves away from the door, to use that kind of expression.
Well, they beat a quarterfinalist, didn't they? That's it. So, to come your first game of the season against URC quarterfinalist losses, and Ospreys, considering how well they played to get to that point last season, and then to beat them at home. I mean, they beat a team they didn't beat last year. I think if you can compete with those teams you didn't beat last year or lost to quite significantly, then it just shows progress straight off the bat. And I think it's just all about, keeping that going for the rest of the season, which isn't always easy.
Well, they head to Leinster next week. So, if
there's going to be a huge crowd of that. It's in the Aviva, which, as we all know is a big stadium, and it's Leinster Dragons. So that'll be not a COVID experience of sorts, but kind of 2021 where there's like letting 10% of a stadium in. It's going to be that kind of experience. So that'll be a blast from the past we didn't know we all missed until we get to see it.
I had that experience at Leicester Montpellier at Twickenham in 2021 because it was the week, I think or a couple of weeks after they'd reopened, and I went to that game, and it was a very, very strange experience because I think it was a minimum of 3 or 4 seats between you and anyone that wasn't in your party. So yeah, it was odd, very odd. So be interested to see if that kind of experiment again next weekend.
Well, it's not an actual social experiment. It's just kind of how
just
it pans
how
out.
Yeah.
And it's 2 seasons of it as well, because apparently the RDS redevelopment has been delayed. But enough about Dublin property development and all that. That's for another rap pod coming next season.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking that there'll be a fair few Dragon supporters heading over, and can you imagine what that would be like if they snuck one? Do you know what I mean? If that was the result of the season in week 2, I'd love that. Anyway, let's move on to the Irish Derby, Munster Connaught. So, Caelan, give us your rundown on that one, mate.
I mean, again, rugby. Like that's kind of all we need to say on this one. Look, Dennis Leamy was one of my favorite rugby players growing up. He's now Munster's defence coach. If he's not in the news for having started a fist fight with a player this week, I'd be shocked, because defence was optional. Defence wasn't even optional. It just wasn't on sale on Saturday. But it was an unbelievable game. It's, again, sometimes you kind of have to let yourself enjoy a game. And I watched it back, and it was, when you're caught up in the emotion of it and all that, it's kind of difficult to sense who played well and if it was just a scrappy pre-season-y you know, kind of just vibes game, but it was actually really, really good watching it back this afternoon. Munster had some star performances, like Alex Lagerfeld got man of the match again, excellent. You really wonder if New Zealand have let one slip there, because he is just made for this kind of rugby. This, not just the one system pass, go, go that we see in Super Rugby. Craig Casey was excellent, Gavin Coombs. And I think for Munster, and I get on to Connacht in a few minutes, this is a game Munster lose at the start of last season or at the start of the season before, where they don't quite have it, and a team keeps counter-punching, they keep coming back at them, and they're looking around, and they need someone to produce a big moment, and it doesn't come. This time it did. Gavin Coombs' try, if you didn't see it, excellent. Like, really, really nice. It was a nice little midfield move that Shane Daly slices open the defence to go wide. And then, actually, I might have mixed up two plays, but they get upfield anyway. Craig plays a brilliant pass to Jack O'Donnell, who tips on. Lovely little catch pass, and Coombs just burrows over. There was no stopping him for about 7 yards out. You just knew he was going to score. It was actually an excellent try, but it was a game of excellent tries. Ben Murphy scored 2. Okay, one of them was very soft. It was, half a cricket field in midfield between the two Munster defenders. But Ioane scored a lovely try. David Hawkshaw took his well. Called forward, real powerful for his try. And yeah, Connacht will be happy, because one of the things I said on here when we previewed them was their attack last year was stale. It was very poor at times. Now, the defence was as well, and they did concede 35 points, and it was ultimately, you can't concede 5 tries and expect to win. Munster said the same things themselves, but this was impressive for Connacht. It was impressive for both sides in ways, don't get me wrong. I thought Munster's attack was actually really, really good, and they could put 40 or 45 points on Connacht with the way they played. But Connacht were decent, and they put up a fight. I like the selection of Josh Murphy at 6. Going with that 3-lock pack, I actually think every province should be going with the 3-lock pack at this stage, because I think, given the players that we have in our forwards at props, not the biggest guys, I think it's what suits them. Connacht went 6-2 as well. That kind of worked. Ioane and Ben Murphy both on debut. Josh Ioane, former All Black, if people remember, formerly of the Chiefs, he was good. Ben Murphy was really, really good. And it's not often you come away from Thomond Park with 2 points and can be happy about it. No, they weren't overly happy. As you'd imagine, they were very disappointed. But I think no matter who lost that game would have been bitterly disappointed. Both of them did enough to win it. A couple of people saying the better team lost. I'm not really sure. I haven't watched it back, and that's not even with the Munster goggles on me. I think it's just a case of, well, Munster attacked really well. Their set piece was decent. They didn't really disrupt at ruck time. They didn't really want to. I think they implemented a game plan that if their defence hit the levels that we seen last year, they probably win by more. The flip side is that was Connacht's best attacking performance in ages. I thought their set piece was really, really good, barring a couple of scrums. And I can't believe it took me this long to remember to bring him up, but Mac Hansen makes such a difference. And again, I think it's something we mentioned at the time. He's a difference maker. The attack looked ready for him to come back in and do his thing, and he wasn't perfect. You ran up blind alleys a couple of times, but it's Mac Hansen, and you have to be alert when he's on the ball, because he can slot in anywhere. Had a lovely crossfield kick that I think 7 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10 goes into the arms of Cordero, but Sean O'Brien brilliantly overhand catch, manages to stop it. Just an excellent game of rugby. Munster played Zebra next, then the Ospreys. I think the one thing that makes Munster happier is they probably have a chance now to reset, iron things out, and then go into the kind of second half of their first block where it gets tougher. Connacht have the Sharks, who you'd imagine after the Currie Cup win, and Alan might be able to attest to it more, you might think that they might kind of have one eye on that at even a week later. But I don't know how much we seen. It was a really entertaining game of rugby. Thought the crowd really got into it the second half, which is always good. And barring a couple of opinion pieces in the Irish papers this morning, I think everyone was pretty positive about it. A couple of, Mar victors, stuff like that thrown around, but it's an Interpro. It's not about Mar victories. It's about winning.
I think it'll be interesting to see as well. Obviously, Munster conceded 33 points at home. it's always interesting to see how the season progresses. You get these teams that obviously they conceded 30 points, and you would think that wouldn't be that if you go away, you're at Munster, you're scoring 33 points. Would Connacht expect to win that game based on scoring 33 points, and then they're hoping or banking on their defense to hold Munster to a lower score? So that's always interesting to note as the season goes on as well. By the end of like 3/4 of the way through the season, there's always that one team who's got this home defense which just locks in numbers, doesn't it, and prevents you getting points. So it'll be interesting to see which team that'll be this season.
Last year was Munster. Munster the second best defense last year. They're the best scramble defense. By those metrics, Glasgow had the best overall. I think Munster's defense has a long way to go. Like the first try from Ioane comes from I'm trying to picture it now. There's a midfield scrum. Ruan Quinn doesn't engage quick enough, so Craig Casey's left defending quite a large town. If anyone's played 9, they know what it's like at the side of that scrum. You can get caught out very easily. Murphy glides through the score. Second Murphy try, I can't for the life of me remember. Oh, sorry. First Murphy try just comes from a Mac Hansen offload that doesn't go to hand, but Murphy is there. Second one, massive defense in midfield. Third one, Hawkshaw sees a prop in front from, puts the foot down. That'll happen sometimes. You can't be too upset with that one. And the other one, Ford just bounces off Tony Butler, who's a young 21-year-old 10 who needs to learn to make his tackles on his 5-metre line. I don't think Munster be too unhappy systematically, and that's why I try to look out for today, because obviously I cover them and I try to keep an eye on them. I don't think system-wise there was much wrong. There was individual errors. The flip side, I think Connacht's system finally got it right. It looked like it was getting it right with Mac Hansen in there. And on an individual basis, a couple of players were really good. I mentioned Josh Murphy, Mac Hansen, Ben Murphy, and Josh Ioane. I don't think Ben and Josh are any relation. Don't ask me to check that up. I have no way of checking up. 2 Murphys. Josh Ioane was excellent. And there's someone else whose name escapes me. I thought Piers O'Connor played well, actually. He kind of moved across the back line due to injuries and that. He adapted well. But yeah, I'd be fairly positive if I was both teams. Like I look, again, you don't want to concede 30 points in your home in your opener. You don't want to concede 5 tries in your opener. But you won an Interpro with full 5 points. You take that in the middle of the season, all the same.
Yeah. It's one of those. It's hard to find anybody that goes that were disappointed with their result this weekend. Do you know what I mean? I think everybody kind of got something out of this weekend.
I could say Lions fans, but is that too harsh because the Currie Cup and South Africa? Or is that too?
We'll come to that in a minute.
Fair, Alex?
Just a bit. Yeah.
I love you, really.
So, Alan, you had a free card last week, so you chose Ulster Glasgow as your game of the week, which probably turned out to be the result of the weekend. So, what did you make of the Ulster Glasgow game, mate?
I think out of all the games, this is probably a game where you can give it to the home advantage. Really, I mean, Ulster were not going to give up. I think Glasgow, near the end of the game, were probably expecting to have it locked down. But what a game, eh? Like, to keep on the pressure that they exerted on Glasgow up until the end of the game was immense. And managing to crack Glasgow was some achievement. It's going to set them up well for the rest of the next couple of weeks. But like I said, as far as home advantage goes, that was probably the strongest home field win, so to speak. I mean, they just wouldn't give up. The amount were both scoring tries. They didn't. I mean, Ulster, like I've just mentioned, I mean, they only conceded 19 points to the champions, which is impressive from a defensive standpoint. So that's a box ticked. But I mean, I think as far as if this was a game you were invested in as a Glasgow fan or an Ulster fan, this would have had you jumping out of your seats, wouldn't it? So I have to be perfectly honest with you. I was a bit, by the time this game came on, I was a bit I wasn't quite feeling rugby at the time. So I had it on in the background and stuff like that, but my phone was blowing up with the guys from South Africa talking about the Currie Cup win and that kind of stuff. So But I did have it on, and it did keep my attention right until the end. So I was very, very impressed with Ulster. I think I backed Glasgow in my prediction, but I think I said I wouldn't be surprised if Ulster did it, and they did at the end. They're the sum of their parts, Ulster, aren't they? So they're a team, very, very cohesive. I mean, Glasgow has a couple of names that you would class as like their stars and so forth, whereas Ulster don't necessarily have that, and that can be seen by the players that they're recruiting. They're not recruiting players like Werner Kok and that kind of thing. He's not a Springbok, but they're looking for workhorses, really. Players who, are willing to get dirty, do the hard yards, and are part of the sum of their parts. And Ulster's probably one of the best examples of that. And this win, I think, shows it.
It was an unbelievable close to that game, climax to that game. Like, as I mentioned earlier, there was 3 tries in the last 7 minutes, 3 tries in the last 8 minutes, something like that. Glasgow will be kicking themselves. They will be absolutely sickened because they had that game. This was an Ulster team with Rob Herring and Tom Stewart both sidelined, Scott Wilson and Marty Moore both sidelined. So that's 4 of your first choice 6 front row forwards. They know Alan O'Connor, who's usually their standing captain. They were without John Cooney, who we all know is their first choice out half. Jake Flannery
injured.
Cooney's injured. Yeah.
Was Balogun out as well? The winger?
Balogun's injured as well. Yeah. Jake Flannery's injured. James Hume is long-term injured. Stuart McCluskey wasn't there. You look at that and you think, Jesus, that is a phenomenal result for Ulster. And it is. And like Glasgow's discipline kind of cost them as well. Like Ulster
Tom Jordan had been again, second game in a row from the final last season. Whether there's a discipline issue there with him or his tackling technique, I don't know. But
I mean, they're the players you don't want to see anyone get a yellow card. But if it's a repeat offender, you've no problem seeing them getting carded. And I think with that one, look, we had a similar one with the Craig Casey incident for Munster. I thought the one on Casey in the Munster game was a red card because I think there's too much mitigation applied sometimes for, the game's fast. Yeah, the game's always fast. Like, we need to stop applying mitigation for everything. I thought the Jordan one could have been a red card as well. He goes in. He has absolutely no intention in wrapping that arm. The shoulder's left sticking out there. He doesn't care who he hits. He's not focused on the technique. That one could have been red. In some ways, a red could have helped Glasgow because I think at that point of the game, they were coasted. They just thought, yeah, we'll get over the line. We'll see it out from here. Even those last couple of phases, Ulster went down the field. They just looked like a team was like, yeah, we'll come up with that moment. It'll be Tuatha Poladu or it'll be someone like that. But I think this is why people can't take Glasgow that seriously. And I fucking know well you're going to clip this as well, which is the annoying part. But I think this is why people don't take Glasgow all that seriously because they are a good team. But good teams win this game. Good teams have Ulster beaten at half-time, which they had the chance to do. They started really strong. Granted, Aidan Morgan scores an opportunistic try off a charge down. He was excellent on debut.
Yep.
But this is a game you have won at the 60-minute mark. It doesn't go down to the last play. It doesn't go down to Dave Shanahan and a potential knock-on on the line, which, to be fair, they checked it and it was clear it was a try. But, like, Glasgow have to win that game.
I want to give special mention to the Henko Fenter as well. That guy loves physical contact, doesn't he?
But he just gets the ball taken off early.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. And I think that's the thing with Glasgow. Like, they go 6-2 because I think they genuinely have to. More than any other team, they have to go 6-2 and keep that power. That's how they play. It's absolutely fine. But like, apart from Darge, I don't know if anyone else stood out for Glasgow in that second half. And like Roy Jarrett, I love him as a player. He's a lion for me, in my opinion. But like, I don't know.
Just wanted to go back to yellow cards and the conduct of players when they receive a yellow card. Ross Byrne on Friday night, his response to the way he received the yellow card, and it was the yellow card. I don't understand. It was awful. It was petulant. It was pathetic, and it was very, very immature. I think it's starting to. It feels like it's on the increase. Players used to just walk off and go, "That's fine." Maybe have a little snipe at your coach or when they've sat down and cooled down a bit. But his behaviour was appalling on Friday night, and it's particularly disappointing because we're not. That's not the sport that we like watching, and it happens in football all the time. But it's not something like seen.
But unfortunately,
we're used to these cards. This isn't a new thing to clamp down with yellow cards and red cards. Players should be used to it at this stage. You fuck up, find out. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but the thing is, I don't think social media helps. I think when these clubs are posting things on Instagram and they're mentioning Like there's a South African site called SA Rugby Mag, which rates the ref after every single game. Like it doesn't help. And then players read these kind of things, and then even Marnie Lebach, we'll get into it later, not for too long, but misses a kick. And I knew, and Russie mentioned it as well, like the amount of abuse he's going to get from that. I mean, that's not necessarily a referee-related thing, but if you are going, I mean, the South African, as a general rule now, it's Marnie's fault, and then if it's not him, it's the ref, and it shouldn't be like that. I mean, the general public might not invest as much time into getting to know the game like you guys obviously do, but there is an element of if we just blame the refs are human, they're going to make mistakes, but you make a mistake, and then the following week you have that referee, and straight away your players are starting to think they don't trust the referee. Or I know that in some of the South African games, the female referee took a bit of heat from players like Bongi. I don't know, he wasn't very respectful either, and he had to be told.
She was very strong, and I think
she was.
Was it Holly Davidson or Joy Neville? Was it Holly Davidson, or was it the South African?
It was Amy Barrett.
She's South African.
That's right. Yeah. But the thing is, like, it comes from social media. It comes from, like these referees make a mistake, and then it's just the general public get hold of it, and the players are human and they buy into it as well. That they do, and you get a yellow card from the referee, and you're kind of like, oh, I knew it. It had to be this guy. So that's something which definitely has to be addressed. I agree 100%.
But Ross Burns' yellow card was obviously a yellow card. He was, Darcy had won that ball. It was coming down to his arms. Craig was looking to run on, and Ross Burns coming late.
It's one of those.
He did have time to back up, but it was just strange the reaction.
Yeah, and you're expecting him to just do the whole shit. Sorry, do you know what I mean? Like usually you're like, oh, sorry, that's on me.
I don't think he even checked Darcy. He didn't look down and go, "Are you okay, mate?" Because Darcy's on his back.
That's the other thing. They're not doing that. Players are knocked out on the field, and back like 10 15 years ago, you'd have players knocked out, and you'd have opposition players going over to them checking. You don't now. They're being tasked with getting up and defending. So that's another thing which has become evident in a few games over the weekend.
And the entire discourse around it is wrong as well. And I'm not saying I'm not disagreeing with you in the slightest, but like we've an incident in the Munster Connacht game, and pundits are saying, no, you can't give a card for that one. It's head on head. It's always been a card. You've got this one with Ross Byrne, and you'll have another pundit apologising because they probably know the guy, and you'll have Tom Jordan, maybe one of his mates, to be on punditry. I'm not blaming these players, like, don't get me wrong, like pundits are in a hard position, but it's just this giant cycle of a player messes up. Oh no, you can't blame them. Can you blame the coach? No, you can't blame the coach. Can you blame the referee? No, you can't blame the like. Players are the ones making the tackles and the infringements, and if you're going to not blame a player for kicking the ball dead, you can blame him for using his shoulder and attacking instead of using his arms. That's kind of how I see it. But and I know we've to touch on next week's games. I just really want to get this in about Ulster before I finish. I don't know if I got the chance to say it in the preview, but what really impressed me about Ulster is there's a new crop of young players coming through who are dogged and drag them off the line. I know, Ben, you had an eye on this one. Harry Sheridan got 25 minutes off the bench. He was everywhere. Cormac Izuchukwu got about 30 minutes. He was everywhere. Dave Shanahan is not that young. He's been third twice at Ulster for as long as I remember. He was brilliant off the bench. And even, like Dave McCann is still only 22. Like, this is exactly, like, this is what fans buy into. There's young players. There's a doggedness about them. There's a determination. And I think a lot of Ulster fans just want Ravenhill to be a hard place to go and win in again, because for years, as we all know, it was a really tough place to win in. That game solidified that. And they're going to lose players to the Emerging Ireland Tour. We won't discuss that. But to see someone like Harry Sheridan, 22, 23, give or take, Dave McCann the same age, Drew Postlethwaite, Cormac Izuchukwu, and they're standing up and they're providing the big moments. And like a latch before a try is just as important as a nice offload. It's all important. And to see these players stepping up in a big moment, and that's what really impressed me about Ulster last night. That's why I was disappointed with Glasgow, because I think aside from maybe Kyle Stain or Rory Darge, and like they scored that lovely try, they're both involved in that lovely try at the end. No one really stood up and said, "This is me." That's where you want your Tui Piloto standing up and saying, "I got you."
Early doors.
I got to see it.
Come on, Taylor.
It is absolutely
the season. You got to give these guys a minute.
This was the trend across the entire weekend. Like Gavin Coombs comes up with the try for Munster. Like Gibson
From,
Park does
from
it
a
for
South
Leinster.
African perspective, the Irish team in the past and the Irish unions have always been, like I said, they haven't had, I mean, from your guys' point of view, a lot of superstars. I mean, Scotland as well to a degree, but it's now becoming an issue where you have players that truly excel in the world, world players of the year, world standard. Going back 10 years, that wasn't the case. Ireland and teams like that and Scotland were, like I said, a team which is the sum of their parts. So you might have had a Brian O'Driscoll, he'd win a couple of Six Nations or whatever it was, and then he'd be your guy, Keith Wood. But now you've got an entire team of players, and these they're all good players. They're just bedding into a system. They've got the system at the youth levels to bring them into the teams. It's still early doors, 1 week in. And you want to see better defence, you want to see better attack. And I mean, Glasgow will get there. I'm sure Glasgow are okay. I mean, there's a couple of missed tackles and that kind of thing. They'll be all right.
So we could genuinely talk. That's how good that weekend was, guys. That we could sit there and talk about it all night. But I'm just going to round off the 2 games that we're not covering in detail. So Cardiff and Zebra were on Friday night. Zebra could have won that. Zebra made 4 breaks that really anybody else would have finished off. Cardiff stuck at it, did what they needed to do, and came out of it with a win. Cardiff will breathe a sigh of relief because they could have quite easily lost that one. And Zebra will be kicking themselves because they would have felt that they could have won that one. Having said that, those are the kind of games last year that Cardiff did kind of lose by 2 points. That's where Cardiff got their losing points from last year. So to come out on top this year will be a big relief and a big boost for the Cardiff team. So Cardiff 22, Zebra 17 on Friday was a decent game to start the weekend. And then the other game was Benetton Scarlets 20-all draw. Genuinely, I couldn't. So I had to watch this game on my laptop with my headphones on because it was on at the same time as Strictly. So I wasn't allowed. I didn't win that battle. So I was sat there on the sofa, and somebody was in the middle of doing a foxtrot or an American smooth, and I'm jumping up, going, "Yeah, come on, yes!" And I got some strange looks from my wife and my daughter. So, cracking game. I'm not going to pick out who it was, but we lost that game because we didn't lose that game because of that. We could have won that game. We gifted them 3 points. They missed the penalty, but we decided to charge the penalty. And then they retook it, and then he put it over. And I'm like, everybody was like, "Oh, let's hope that doesn't come back and bite us." And it did. It came back and bought us. But it was competitive right to the end. It was literally last minute. They missed a kick where they could have won it. But yeah, for me as a Scarlet, the scrum worked, the line-up worked, we were competitive, we were defensive, we played a team that is, going to finish in the top half of the table, and we absolutely competed with them. And for the second half, we probably had the better of that game in the second half and probably should have won a little bit more. So, yeah, but a 20-all draw felt like a win, genuinely, coming from where Scarlets were last year.
I was going to say, I think Scarlets would have lost that game last year. So
I
think that's a big improvement.
Yeah, and that's definitely there's a lot of positivity around the Scarlets after that game. Particularly, we lost Costello like an hour before kickoff. He just came down with an illness and pulled out an hour before, so we rejigged everything an hour before kickoff, and it worked really well. So yeah, those are the 2 games that we're just going to skip over. Let's talk South African rugby. Do you want to start with Argentina, or do you want to finish with Argentina? Alan, you pick. You go, man. Which way do you want to do it?
Yeah, I think Argentina probably deserved the win. I think we all know how hard it is playing over there. We obviously raced into a 17-0 lead very quickly, and then the wheels just kind of came off, and Argentina just came back into the game. I think, we know that they're resilient. We know they're dogged. They were interfering with our lineouts. I think their scrum wasn't up to much. But when Orense went off, I think they just capitalized on that. Gaps in our defense. They got around the outside, and I think they were, really, really entertaining to watch from an Argentine point perspective. Obviously, the Springboks will be disappointed. They got a losing bonus point, but we go again next week, and hopefully Imani Lebok is able to pick himself up from this and not let it affect him too much, because obviously there's a lot of public animosity directed at him at the moment, and it's just bear in mind that he is a player, he's a human. So let's just he's doing his best, and there were other chances that should never have come down to a kick. We should have won the game or more, considering the lead we had. So let's all bear that in mind. But congratulations, Argentina. Not good enough, Springboks. We go again next week. Let's bring the trophy home. And let's take it there.
An Argentina bonus point wins the championship for them for the first ever time, and it's something I checked this morning, and it's also the first time they beat all three teams in the same competition in the same season. So again, kind of the follow-on from that is, why are South Africa and New Zealand trying to do this, biennial tour, which is going to see the rugby championship kind of be consigned to every other year, and if it continues that way, it'll probably just fall apart. So I don't want to see it, because I think it just shows that all four teams are relatively competitive. Australia weren't that bad against New Zealand either yesterday morning. It'll be interesting to see the return game in Wellington next weekend.
I think there is still the option. I think they want to have the championship every 2 years. I think they still want to have it, and then I think it would be something like, if you have the tour, then I think they're trying to work out a system where it would still happen, but just obviously a lot less frequently. But the point I wanted to raise about it was, like, if you look at Italy in the Six Nations and you look at Argentina in the championship, the improvement that Argentina has shown over a relatively short period of time, over the last 20 years or so, and the results that they've had in the World Cup shows that there is something to be said for including these nations in the smaller nations and getting them involved despite travel, because they've obviously been left out of Super Rugby again, and they don't have a local tournament to play in. But I mean, it would be interesting what your guys' opinion is why Italy are unable to do something similar with the players. They have that kind of thing. So that needs to be looked at by World Rugby as well.
And that's a question for Six Nations time.
Yeah.
Because we start that one now. We ain't getting off this call till midnight. So So give us a quick rundown on Currie Cup. How did that pan out for you?
Well, the Lions had a home final. They got a few thousand people there, which is nice to see the stadium. Lots of people there. The Lions had the chance to win the game. There was a penalty, which they took the line out and mauled it up, gone 80 minutes. And then the Sharks won the maul, the turnover, and ran off with it. And then our ex-player, Jordan Hendrickse, got a 59-meter kick to win them the game. So very, very disappointing. Very disappointing. I mean, some of the worst game management from the Lions that I've ever seen. And the fact that it hurts twice as much because it was our player who scored the penalty against us on a field he's grown up playing rugby on. So that's very, very disappointing. But on a positive note, we have Ulster next week, and the Lions owe us a win. And they are battle hardened, despite what Caelan said. So we'll need to see. The South African teams are battle hardened as well, and they'll be raring to go. And I think Ulster are going to have a really hard time in Johannesburg.
Okay. We'll talk about next week in a mo. So if you are liking what you are hearing and what you're seeing, please do give us a like and a share, and more importantly, a subscribe on YouTube. When you watch all the kids, sort of like when you watch their podcasts and go, smash the button, batter the button, bang that button, yo kids, yo, do this, and I'm like, if you could just press the button, if you could just give it a little
gently
tap. Yeah, click it gently, because you're getting on. But yeah, if you could give us a subscribe, that would be great. It really helps for what we're trying to do with the podcast. So let us move on to week 2 of the URC. So we're going to start with the game that you were just talking about, Alan, Lions and Ulster. So give us your expectations on first week for South African sides in this competition. Are we going to see most of the players from the Currie Cup, some of the players from the Currie Cup? How is that going to work? And Ulster have just beaten the last season's champions, so it's looking like a really good game already.
Yes, the benefit of us having the Currie Cup is it's obviously a very important competition to the South Africans. But what it's helped us with is have a pre-season game, which means something. So what happened was the Lions and the Sharks basically played virtually their first string teams minus the Springboks, which the Lions didn't have that many. So I'm expecting the Lions team to be virtually the same team that played in the Currie Cup final, and they'll be raring to go against Ulster. Potentially there could even be some fans there as well, so we'd like to see the stadium get a bit fuller this season. But I think Ulster are going to struggle. I think they're going to go over to Johannesburg, and I think it's going to be it's a tough place to go anyway. But I'm predicting that the Lions are going to win that one, possibly with a bonus point, because I think this time of the year in the UK, early on in the season, I think it's just going to take a couple of games for Ulster to get their mojo back after the game they just won. But it's going to be difficult for them, and I think the Lions are going to win the game. The Stormers and the Bulls, we'll get your opinions on them in a minute, but they probably won't be quite as ready as the Lions and the Sharks are going to be.
Okay. So let's get a quick score prediction out of you then for Lions and Ulster.
So I want to go in the region of around, let's say, 17-28.
17-28. So what, Lions winning 28-17?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I mean, we're not going to hold you to it, but if you get that wrong next week, we are going to rip it out of you constantly.
So. No, you guys don't have to. I'm getting these wrong, so don't hold me to any of
You said Glasgow. You said Glasgow last week.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but I also said I wouldn't be
if I'm an Ulster
surprised.
fan, I'm just
I wouldn't be surprised.
taking
if
out the
Ulster
cigar
won.
and
Yeah, you're already developing a reputation as not the person to follow for predictions, Al. So
Not a
Yeah,
gambler.
don't follow your bets. Yeah.
No, not a better.
Yeah.
I'm not a better. No.
Did anyone see my Super Brew predictions? Jesus.
do you know
Holy.
what?
I got the first 2 games right. After
Fell
that,
apart, mate.
no, downhill.
I think Lee G is top dog at the moment
I know. But I have to pull the plug.
because because he backed up his Dragons prediction with actually clicking the button for Dragons on the Super Brew League. So that's what's got him in the top, because we all went the opposite direction.
Yeah, what can I say, boys? It's I'll be honest.
And
Yeah,
the Scarlets getting a result when we didn't see it. Imagine.
what can I say?
Great.
Confidence. We will do more on the prediction league when I'm organised enough to check it before. Is the basics of it. Right, let's look at Connacht Sharks, which is your game of the week for this week, Caelan. What can we expect from that one?
I mean, they kind of gave me slim pickings for the Irish teams. We did pro last week, like we'd Leinster go to Edinburgh. That was a tough one. Ulster out to Glasgow. This week, Connacht Sharks, Leinster against the Dragons, and Zebra against Munster. I didn't really have much to choose from here. But in one hand, you've got the Sharks. They got the money. They got the box. They got the Currie Cup now. Sorry, that's the last time I mentioned Alan. I don't really care about the Currie Cup, but it's just, important here. They got this momentum, feel-good factor. They're Challenge Cup winners. Then you got Connacht, and they're doing up the stadium, and they should have won in Limerick, and they'll have no Bundy yet. Might even have Finlay Bealham back. And, these are the games that we get told that South African teams just go out and win. They just turn up, they win them. They're great. So give me Connacht. I think Connacht are going to win this one. It's in Galway. I think the Sharks are going to be too busy partying. I don't think they'll be too interested. They never really have much interest when they come to Ireland compared to, say, the Stormers or the Lions or the Bulls. So I think Connacht is going to take this. I think Connacht will be really eager to back up a big performance with a big performance and a big win, because I think if you go into round 2 with 6 points from your first 2 games, I think you'd be really, really happy, because I think that's what the aim would have been anyway. If they, you want to be getting something from every game. They could go into this with 6 points for 2 games. They would be bouncing, and I definitely think they can do it. I'd be confident enough. I'd like to see Connacht keep things fairly similar to last time. Obviously, Shane Bolton got injured in the first half. Joe Joyce and Santi Cordero in the second half. So they might be without those. They'll be without Darmaray. They'll be without. I can't remember. They'll be without a few players, like 7 players for Emerging Ireland. But like, these are the games that you kind of got used to seeing Connacht win it again. For years they were stumbling over the games they should be winning, but you kind of got used to see them take off a South African team in Galway, or kind of like go to Wales for a Friday night game or something like that. You kind of got used to seeing them win that. And I think if you want us to take you seriously, and that's going to be a phrase I'll use a lot this season because I don't know, Irish arrogance or something like that. I don't know, whatever. These are the games you have to win, and I think Connacht bounce back, get the results, get a feel-good victory. Just show that the vibes are in the right place. Matt Hansen dance around whoever the Sharks regen winger will be, because he'd probably be fantastic because it's South Africa. Yeah, go get a result. I have Connacht win this one. I also have Leinster beat the Dragons. Shock horror. I know. No, nobody bat an eyelid there. And I have Ulster beating Zebra. So I also want to say Ulster beat the Lions, but Ulster are going to be absolutely depleted with Emerging Ireland, so I don't think I can back them up again. But 3 Irish wins. Let's go.
Okay. So what's the actual score prediction for Connacht?
I don't do score prediction.
You're going to have to, man. Come on.
I don't do. I'll go Connacht 31, Sharks 15.
Okay.
And I know that seems like a lot, but I think the Sharks will it'll be one of those games Connacht will pull clear. The garbage time, as they say in America. I think it'll be that kind of a result. I think Connacht get a bonus point win.
So the whole first week, everyone winning by 2 points. That's just balls to let us out the window.
We front loaded our this is like the World Cup last year. Front load all the fixtures and then get the hammerings out of the way and then get into the serious stuff at the end.
Okay. Ben, you got Glasgow Benetton. So yeah.
Edinburgh Bulls.
Oh, sorry, got it the wrong way around. They're away. No, Edinburgh are away in South Africa, aren't they? Yeah. Sorry, mate. You're stuck with Glasgow Benetton.
I was actually just had an Edinburgh spiel in my head there. So I'm gonna have to think about what I'm to say.
I give him Edinburgh.
Go on.
Okay, go on, mate. Because it's early and we're still getting the hang of it. Go on, and you can.
I think the concern for me is, and this happened on Friday, Buffelli was on the bench and he had to be pulled out an hour before, and he had problems with his back last year. He had significant back spasms. He's not travelled with his 29-man tour, and he's the kind of player you want at high altitude because he's so good under a high ball and he's very good at his kicking as well. And I think he's going to be a massive miss next Saturday at Loftus. So I've got a real concern that if he was going in, he would start, and I think Vellacott would come in for Ali Price. That would be the 2 changes I would have made. I would have backed us. I don't think we're going to win without Buffelli in the back 3. I'm not sure if we've got that defensive kind of mindedness that Buffelli brings. He's very calm. He's very assured with his kicking, and I think that's how you beat the Bulls, is your kicking game. With him out and not being there at all available because of his injury, I think I would have said a 2 or 3 point Edinburgh win. I'm probably going to swing that over to a 5 to 7 point win for the Bulls now. So I'm going to go 20-13 to the Bulls.
Ooh, see, that's already looking like a good game. It just because Edinburgh had such a good performance against Leinster. Bulls first game of the season, you're catching cold. Scarlets tried that last year, that didn't pay off. So that could be a cracker. It really, really could be. Okay, so Welsh game to look at next week or this week is Scarlets versus Cardiff, which is in Parc Scarlets. It's really weird the way we've got all of our derby games, because we play Scarlets v Cardiff this week, and then we play somebody else next week, and then the week after that we play Cardiff v Scarlets. So we get 2 of those games out of the way in 3 weeks. By week 5,
it's a very odd quirk in the season, isn't it? That very odd.
Yeah, really, really weird. I mean, the good thing is 50% of last season's 4 wins for Scarlets came against Cardiff, and they were the one side that just couldn't beat us last year. But the way we've started this year, concerns for Scarlets. Vea Fafita kind of got a bit of a knock at the end of the game. I think Alex Craig was injured at the end of the game on the weekend, so we're waiting to hear on whether they're going to be in the side. A couple of players picked up injuries beforehand. Archie Hughes is out for a while. So Welsh squads, we talk about depth a lot because of the cost cutting that's had to go on, and we know that once we scrape away that top 15, it does start to get a little bit ropey. But then Scarlett started to develop a bit of depth. Cardiff actually looked quite good. What happened last year with Cardiff was you'd put your first 15 on, and then you'd roll the dice, and your subs would come on, and it would all go to shit. That didn't happen for Cardiff against Zebre. So it looks like that depth is starting to develop for both sides. This should be a belter of a game. It really should, because both sides have still got something to prove. Scarlets, for all of the hype and the excitement of that Benetton game, it still wasn't a win. We've started seasons with draws before, and then 5-6 weeks into the season, and we're going, it's time to change the coach. So Scarlets need to back up that draw against Benetton. And Cardiff, like I said, they potentially could have lost that game against Zebre. So as good as it was to be sitting top of the table, now they really need to back that up with another win and solidify where they are. So yeah, it's going to be a hell of a game. It really is going to be a hell of a game. And my prediction is still running around my head, because it's one of those.
Got to commit, Lee. You got to commit.
Yeah,
score.
My heart before last Friday, my heart was already going, do you know what? Cardiff Scarlets is already looking like a draw, and I don't think we're going to have 2 draws on a week. So I'm going to go for a home victory by 3 points. I'm going to go Scarlets 20, Cardiff 17. But I think it's going to be an excellent game. I really do, and another one for all of us to look forward to.
Did we get a prediction off Ben, or did I just blank?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, 2013 to the Bulls. You were busy having a takeaway. You probably onto your chow mein by then, mate. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know. Don't be blaming the food at this stage. It was just a case of trying to concentrate on 4 things at once, because I'm always researching when we're on these things. That's what it is. Like,
you were researching.
I'm gonna start doing that one day.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say researching.
You were researching the score in the NFL, is what you
did. There we go. Someone gets it.
Yeah.
And for the one commenter who said that my face was lighting up like a Christmas tree, I'm not going to stop watching Red Zone as long as we record during Red Zone. That's just, I'm sorry, guys. I'm me. Just love me for who I am.
Take me as I am. Okay, so other games for this week then. So the Glasgow Benetton. Thoughts on that one quickly?
Who's at home?
Glasgow are at home.
Home win. They're going to. I think they're going to go unbeaten at home again this season. I'm going to put it out there last season. They're going to win every single game.
I can see that.
Yeah, I think they will.
Yeah, so the Glasgow win on
unbelievably difficult to play at home.
Yeah.
Okay,
Zebre Munster.
I mean, look, how can you look away from Zebre? No, I think Munster. I think the big thing for Munster is, like, Zebre can play ball. Zebre can really attack. Just keep them quiet with ball in hand. Hold on to the ball a little bit more. We're only 45% possession yesterday. A little bit more on that. My only concern is that Billy Burns took a knock and Jack Crowley mightn't be back yet, so we might have to start Tony Butler at 10. But bonus point win there, and onto the Ospreys, hopefully.
Okay, speaking of Ospreys, so Ospreys v Stormers, it's in Swansea, so
I go Ospreys. I like the Ospreys for this one. They could bounce back. They have a good record as well, and that's in the Brewery Field.
No, it's one of them is I think they're playing Edinburgh, and the Stormers at Brewery Field in Bridgend, aren't they? But the other games at Swansea Stadium. So That I think it's an old ground, isn't
That's
it? Bit dated. I think would be the
proper
right way
old,
to put it.
Yeah, it's very different from like
Yeah.
Stellenbosch when they moved there, and it's like really picturesque and
Wine
you know,
region.
like really nice. And then there's Bridgend, which it's nice, but you know, any game we've seen there has been played in teeming rain, torrential rain for about 40 days.
And there's this joke going around that I think it was the Boxing Day game last year where somebody parked their lorry at the end. There isn't it's not a full stand all the way around. There is one end which is open and it's the car park, and somebody parked the lorry in there and the weather was horrendous. So they took the side off the lorry and everybody just jumped on the back of the lorry because it was that wet. If you've seen that game, it was horrendous. And then John Barkley made a comment about it on Premier Sports or whatever it was, and called it. So now it's called the John Barkley Lounge, and they purposely park a lorry there and pull the sides of it. So it's gone from a thing that was a bit of a joke and a bit of a, oh my God, we've got to get out the rain and that'll do, to it's now officially called the John Barkley Lounge, and you can buy tickets. They serve beer in there. You can go and sit in the John Barkley Lounge and watch the game. And I think he's got a sense of humor about it as well, because he's mentioned it a couple of times. So
he's got to come and do the official opening then next weekend. Cut the ribbon.
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise
tickets, please. Yeah.
So we're all thinking Ospreys for that one. Yeah. Are you going to agree with that, Noel? Are we going to go for?
I want the Stormers to win, but I do also agree. I think they'll struggle first up. They're probably out of all the South African teams, I think they're probably the ones who have had the longest break. They're probably the least hardened and ready to go. So I'll probably go with the Ospreys as well. I think they're probably going to beat the Stormers. I think it'll be close, but I do think that the Ospreys will win that.
I think they've turned them over a couple of times at home as well, which is quite good. And then final game of the week to review then is Dragons Leinster. So
give me the Dragons. Oh, this is an unofficial prediction. Give me the Dragons.
I'm going to go for the Dragons.
Leinster I'll go Leinster by 30, 35. We've seen this film before a couple of times. You know,
I remember it was a couple of seasons ago. It was quite a few seasons ago, but it was on a Sunday afternoon. It was second or third game of the season, and everybody kind of like forgotten about it. And it was Dragons Leinster. It was in Rodney Parade. It was in Dragons, and it was like 7-5 on 75 minutes or something like that. Yeah. And Leinster had a dubious, should have been a knock on or something to win it. Dragons have got their tails up. Dragons are a difficult side to beat. I'm full of the positivity for the Welsh sides at the minute, guys. And I'm going, this could be the biggest shock of the whole tournament. And people are going to be going, do you remember in week 2 when Dragons beat Leinster? Now that was a game to watch. So you mark my words, Dragons Leinster, Dragons are going to turn up for this one, and everyone is going to be shocked on that.
I think if the Dragons beat Leinster next weekend, I think it's only fairly that you come on here in a Wales jersey and I come on in a Munster jersey for just a peek, get the viewers in. It's probably not going to happen, but sure, we can have fun if it does.
Yeah, if the Dragons win on the weekend, I'll get Jamie to give me his Dragons top, and I'll put a Dragons top on just for.
It's nice. That retro kit he had on is nice.
It is. I will be fair for that. So, on the balance of probabilities, I'm guessing Ben Allen, you're going to stick with Leinster and be boring, but
I like to see Leinster lose every weekend because I just really like them. It's something about that side. It's a bit like Man United football. I just can't stand them, and I like to see Leinster lose. So if the Dragons, go on. If they're within range at half time, Dragons are going to win. I'm going to fall in behind you on that one, because I want them to win.
Okay,
I think I'll stick with Leinster. Thanks.
Okay, so we got a 50-50 split on that. A draw would be a fair result, is what we're saying.
Caleb, what shirt am I going to wear if the Dragons win?
God,
I have to find something.
If you have an Edinburgh kit from last year, pretend it's a Ben Healy jersey, maybe. That's probably the best I can do on that one. I think it's only fair that now that you've said this, that you back them on Super Bowl. I think it's.
I'm gonna.
How are we going to get into?
Don't worry, I will.
Yeah,
I'd rather. Yeah, what I say tonight is going to be replicated for the score prediction on Super Bowl when it opens up later in the week.
That's what we like to see.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Right, gentlemen, time is...
Dragons by 21.
Time is getting the better of us once again. It has been an absolutely amazing first week of the season. The South African sides are in the mix for week 2. It is going to be even better again. It's kicked off in a way that you hope for, and it's there, and it's absolutely delivered. So enjoy your rugby this weekend, guys, and we'll come back. We'll do this all again next week, hopefully with the Dragons win away in Leinster. I'm joking. I'll see you next week, guys. All the best.
Good luck.
Cheers.
See you later.
That was the United Rugby Rewind. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can. And join us next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.